It was the summer of 1977. I was an engineer for IBM repairing office equipment in customer offices. There was one really cute chick that never called me very often, and whenever I got a service call from her, she was top priority. I turned up this day, and she was wearing one of those long 70s stretchy dresses with elastic above her boobs to hold it up. She sat down and demonstrated the problem on her typewriter to me, and as she slid her wheeled office chair back to let me sit down and fix the machine, I saw that she had rolled over the bottom of her dress. What to do? Should I... Hey everyone, welcome back to AskReddit Town Hall. Today, we've got a hilarious treat for you. We're diving into the wild world of what are your best accidental nudity stories? Buckle up, because these tales are sure to have you laughing out loud. Let's get right into it. Say something. No time. The world right then went into absolute slow motion, and she stood up and both her massive DD boobs were liberated, shaking and shimmering in all their fabulous glory for the entire typing pool, and me practically face to nipple to adore. And of course, because the bottom of her dress was tangled in the chair wheels, the harder she tried to pull it back and cover up, the more her lovely tits bounced free. An image that has stayed with me for the last 33 years. Edit. Should I post this story in its own thread? If so, which subreddit should I post it in? Edit 2, posted in self. I am fairly new to Reddit. Is there somewhere else better to post it? The Onion. I will keep this story shorter for the sake of posting, so forgive the lack of gravitas in the delivery. When I was in high school, me, my friends, and all of our dads would rent a houseboat at Shasta Lake in California every summer. During our junior year trip, we took the houseboat way up one of the arms of the Sacramento River. And while the dads were in the boat, my friends and I were all being dragged behind on rafts, tubes, etc. As we rounded a bend in the middle of nowhere, we see a houseboat with possibly 6 to 10 fully naked women sunbathing. There were some life vests buckled onto some of the rafts for handholds, and as we are cruising past, one of them became unbuckled. We moored maybe a quarter mile upriver, and immediately the dads were discussing who would take the speedboat to go get the life vest back. Upon their return with the vest, they told all of us hormonal, teenage, nerd boys that the boat was indeed covered in naked women. We decided to immediately set out for a closer look. Unfortunately, the shore was quite steep and covered in shale, so while my friends left with a pair of binoculars, I turned around, hopped onto one of the 3-person rafts, and began paddling towards the naked woman houseboat. Upon rounding the bend, separating our boat from theirs, I suddenly started wondering what the fuck I was doing. Here I was, an overweight, nerdy, Star Wars obsessed high schooler with little direct woman skills, and I am paddling a beeline for a naked woman houseboat in the middle of nowhere, with all of my friends watching and no plan to speak of. I began thinking, what possible excuse could I use to get closer to this naked woman houseboat? And I remembered our plan to make Spanish rice for dinner. Maybe I could borrow some salt like a good neighbor would. No. How would I get it back to our boat paddling in the middle of a fucking lake? I needed to borrow something that could be transported easily, not sound ridiculous to borrow, and be an ingredient in Spanish rice. An onion. I looked back and saw my friends watching through the binoculars and commenced paddling. As I near the naked woman houseboat, it briefly occurred to me that I must look fucking ridiculous paddling with my hands up to this boat while lying on my belly on a 3-person raft. Didn't care. I was so damn close to seeing more naked women than my mind could comprehend. I paddled up to shore and walked up the plank to the front door of their boat and knocked on the door. I have to say this now. This story is true. If I were telling it to you, it might be exaggerated slightly, but typing doesn't give me that luxury. I just want you to keep this in mind as I wind this story up. The door was opened by an absolutely gorgeous and quite naked woman. In hindsight, the whole situation played out as if everything was completely normal. She asked me who I was with a smile, and I told her about our Spanish rice conundrum. She turns to go find an onion, and as she is bent over, looking through the cupboards and cabinets, I see a couple of other women just kicking it. They act like I am the second person that day to ask to borrow an onion and go about their business. I think one was reading a book, right as the naked door answerer says she found an onion, one of the doors in the naked woman house. Boat opened, and a man and woman, who were later established to be having sex from the evidence at hand, poked their heads out and asked me what's going on. Making Spanish rice, needed an onion. Cool, am given the onion. I thank them, hop on my raft and paddle away. We ended up not making Spanish rice, and I kept the onion inside of one of those clear plastic baseball display cubes until the day it was attacked by ants, and I was forced to part with the only physical evidence of one of the best stories of my adolescence. My dorm room is the one closest to the door to the staircase. People seem to be unable to grasp the difference between my door and the staircase door, even though they are completely different kinds of doors, and have on numerous occasions opened my door and to become confused, apologize and go back out. One time, I had just gotten out of the shower, hadn't locked my door, and this kid opens the door. I was topless. He starts stuttering, and it takes him about 10x as long as it should have to close the door. It was amusing, but now I lock my door. Once, while living at home, my sister ran into the living room in her bathrobe, looking horrified. What? I just flashed the kids next door. There were like 10 of them there, all boys. Haha, what the fuck? How did you manage that? Well, I was in my room after having showered, and my robe came open while I was kind of dancing around. Dancing? Yeah, sort of like this. Demonstrates. Robe comes open. Ah! Sister runs from room. I laughed. A lot. And that is how my sister flashed me while trying to explain how she had flashed someone else. To be fair, later I accidentally flashed my adolescent boobs at her boyfriend, and he commented to her that it would have been awkward if there'd been anything to see. Ow! Burn! Jerk. After chatting with a cute girl in her dorm room, I left to head to class. As I was crossing the threshold of her door, the door across the hall swung open, and there were 3 to 4 girls standing in the center of the room. The girl in the middle was topless and had the most amazing rack. The WTF moment was that her tits were completed, covered, smeared with a white cream, and her creamy hands were raised in air. Within a second, they all looked up, saw me, and slam, the door closed. Ah, but those tits! When I was in the army, I got very drunk and took a really cute girl back to the barracks. Turns out she was taking me to the female barracks, which are, get this, laid out opposite of the males. So after a really decent fuck, I get up and go to the bathroom, which turns out to be the hallway. I hear the door lock behind me, and the chick is already in the shower, can't hear me knocking. had to walk back to my room naked past a platoon or so of female medics. They laughed, they cheered. I never, ever lived that shit down. When I was 17, I had an awful throat infection. Flu, cold thing. Out of school for like 2 weeks. But I had to take the SATs, so I forced myself to school, which meant drugged up on all kinds of Dayquil and decongestants and lots of other terrible stuff. I managed to finish the test, but I was really loopy and felt nauseous, so I took off the girls' locker room to hurl. The ASATs were in the gym, they were the closest bathroom. So I get in there, vomit until my eyes water, and stumble out of the stall. Being loopy and watery-eyed, I didn't notice the urinals. I went around the corner to wash my face and came face to dong with the entire baseball team, who were in various stages of undress. While sailing around Greece with my family as a teenager, I took a bored wander around one of local islands after we'd moored up one day. I followed a path up a hillside right by the sea and noticed a makeshift bench out of some large stone and a couple of wooden boards. I took a seat and looked out through the bushes at the sea and at 4 fully nude young women, not pervy, I was 13, sunbathing on the beach. In retrospect, I think the best part was that someone had spent enough time there to actually make a bench. Although it may be hard to believe, I created this account to post on this thread. First ever post. I'm a hardcore lurker. I'm very nervous. Here goes nothing. I slept over at a girlfriend's house. We wake up in the morning and decide to take a quick shower together. She runs in right downstairs and gets in the shower, but I was lagged behind. Both her parents work during the day, and her younger brother is still in high school. So I make a bold maneuver and traipse the short distance downstairs to the shower in my birthday suit. Upon reaching the living room, I make the startling discovery that her younger brother's day at school must have been cut short. At the last possible moment, before rounding the corner and descending the stairs, I see her brother staring slack-jawed at my junk in horror. For some reason, the most appropriate thing I could think to say was, "Oh, hey, that affair, Barbie, chi, di, I, stair, a, sferi, Baya, hama, assis, massive morning, resurrection, things like that." When I was a sophomore in high school, my theatre department did Fiddler on a Roof. One of our performances happened to be during the first snowstorm of the year, and naturally, in between scenes, I went outside to write my name on the fresh canvas. Later during the show, I had a very quick costume change prior to the wedding scene, big dance number, and must have forgotten to zip up my fly. This combined with the fact that I didn't rebutton my boxers following my art session left me quite exposed to the elements and unaware of the impending doom. Well, the long dance number ended with me doing a split leap over another person's head down onto the stage's thrust, directly in front of an elderly couple with satohe hanging out for everyone to see. Tel.dar, I flashed an elderly couple on stage, not a stripper. Deleted. I was wearing a really old shirt with holes in it, without a bra, because I had just been cleaning, and the holes had gotten bigger. And when I say holes, I mean like huge gaping holes in the armpits, where it was close to the point where it shouldn't have even been considered a shirt. I was on my laptop in bed and laid down for a second. My brother came in to talk to my boyfriend, and as he turns around for 1 second, I move, and my entire breast became exposed. My fault for wearing such a terrible shirt. But my boyfriend quickly covered me up. Then my brother turns around and wonders why my boyfriend's just sitting there with his hands on my boobs. So, it was a weekday morning, and school was in session, and everything was pretty normal. I don't have school a couple days out of the week, so the girlfriend would come up and we would mess around. Living with your parents, one of whom does not work, does not leave much free time. On this day, in particular though, my mother wasn't home and it was about noon, so my little sister was at school. Or so I thought. My girlfriend and I do our thing, have some fun, do the bionic seahorse, that type of stuff. And she goes into the bathroom and gets dressed. I, in my infinite wisdom, go to the kitchen, stark naked, and proceed to get a soda from the fridge. Girlfriend comes in the kitchen, starts making something to eat. Then I hear it. A door shut. Not a car door, not a main entry door for the house, but a door inside of the house. I book it for my room and do a spin and a barrel roll as I approach the door in a useless attempt to hide my junk from flailing everywhere and slam the door behind me. My sister, who is 8 years younger than I, saw the entire thing. To this day, she calls me Woolly Mammoth and tells me at every chance she possibly has that she has been scarred for life. Bless her heart. My freshman year of college at Arizona State University. In the early fall semester, it is pretty hot outside, so girls tend to wear as little as possible. One girl was walking up the ramp to the doors of our dorm. My friend and I looked at each other because she was ridiculously good looking, and she knew everyone was looking. This kid started riding his skateboard down the ramp. He either hit a crack in the cement or was a total genius, but he tripped up and fell off of his skateboard, through the air a bit, and right on her pulling her dress completely down. This revealed to every onlooking 2 fantastic personality enhancers and a little pink G-string. All in all, it was a good start to my college experience. I wore what I thought was a pretty sturdy bathing suit to a water park. Apparently not. Out of nowhere, something snaps and my top just falls off, and I expose my tits to the entire line of people waiting to get on the lazy river. I used to live in an apartment in a high-rise with a courtyard area in the middle. One evening, my then girlfriend, now wife, came out of the shower with a towel around her hair, the way women always wrap their hair. She's walking around completely nude, except for the towel. The apt is pretty small, so she has to keep walking by the large window in the living room that faced the courtyard. One thing led to another, and she ends up on the phone with someone. A few minutes go by when she looks across the courtyard to see 2 dudes staring out their window, resting their chins on their hands, elbows on windowsill, watching her walk around naked. Probably a solid 15-20 mins of free show. The scene. It's the last day of 8th grade. The teachers are all MIA, or off doing something other than watching us. I'm sitting at a desk in my homeroom. The setup. There are 3 girls sitting a few feet away from me. One of my male classmates has a camera and is pointing it at them. The act. All 3 girls lift up their shirts and flash the guy as he takes a picture. 2 are wearing bras. The third one, who is closest to me, is not. Those were the first live breasts my 13-year-old eyes had ever seen. Tear. A few years ago, I was at the beach in Rocky Point, Mexico. My friend and I were out playing with those inflatable rings in the waves. Trying to be impressive, I pushed off and attempted to surf my tube back to the shore. I still don't know how it happened, but I ended up slipping and fell butt first into the center hole backwards. This was right about the time I hit the sand, so as I continued forward, my pants rolled downward. I didn't notice until I stood up and flashed my super albino white girl butt to the entire heavily populated beach. The story still gets brought up every time I go back to Mexico. Away with a bunch of friends one weekend. There is this girl with fantastic boobs, great body, whole package. As we were getting ready to head to the beach, one of her friends was putting on sunscreen. Clasp slipped and they just exploded out of the bikini top. Only 2 or 3 of us saw it. Cheered. Fast forward to the beach 30 minutes later. The conversation was focused on the boobs, of course. Wave came up and knocked off the bikini top again. All 6 guys just stared as she walked in with no clue they had fell out. We all just stared until she got in. Then one guy pipes up. I think your boobs fell out. Fire drill in dorms. Girl rushed out of shower in towel. Falls downstairs. Exposed. When I was about 7 years old, we took a trip to the Omaha Zoo. I was up against the glass, really into watching the polar bears swim around and play, and a huge crowd had gathered around. As I was watching, my older brother pulled down my shorts and underwear in front of everyone. It wasn't accidental, but I'm pretty sure a polar bear saw my wiener. TLDR. A polar bear looked at my 7-year-old wiener. I brought 4 friends home a few months back, and we came home to find the bathroom door wide open and the shower running with the curtain closed. My roommate, apparently, was showering. Unfortunately, as soon as she heard the front door slam behind us, she attempted to dive for the bathroom door to close it. The effect being that she ripped the shower curtain open as soon as we were all arrayed outside for a perfect view. She stood there, looking shocked, with the curtain agape, while we all laughed, until my gay friend chimed in with, "Wow, Sarah's got an awesome body," which she does. Deleted. So, here is the setup. My bathroom has a window in it. Not one that you can open, but it is just a very wide piece of glass, higher up on the wall. On the opposite wall is the toilet and the door. One morning, my neighbor was getting his roof redone after a hailstorm, and I was woken up by their nail guns and yelling and whatnot. In my morning days, I stumbled into the bathroom, not remembering that the window was there, and the roofers on my neighbor's roof can see into that window. So, I was standing there, taking the longest piss ever since I had been drinking the night before. I finished taking a piss and looked out the window and realized the roofers were looking over. I should have waved, but instead, I just shrugged my shoulders and went back to bed. I've had a sleepwalking problem for most of my adult life. It gets worse when I drink. It gets worse in the summertime, or whenever my room gets somewhat hot. In my sophomore year of college, I was living in a house with 2 other dudes and a girl. I was working at my internship 40 hours a week, and my roommates and I were drinking at least 20 hours a week. Best summer of my life. I remember it was softball night. We all came back to the house and pounded a case. Of course, my other roommates had bullshit jobs that summer and were regularly sleeping in until noon. I knew I had to hang it up if I wanted to get to work the next morning on time. I told them all to eat shit and went to bed. Our air conditioning had been out for a week. It had to have been at least 85 degrees in my room. even with 2 fans and the windows open. At some point in the night, I sleepwalked outside in my boxers to rejoin my roommates and a couple friends. My boxers were the type with the wang hole and single button. I was partially drunk and sleepwalking. The button was not buttoned. So there I was, muttering gibberish in front of my friends with my penis hanging out of my shorts. They all had a riot. I was enough entertainment to stop the game of beer pong they had been playing. After a certain point, one of my friends put me to sleep. I wouldn't have known any of this if it had not been for the cell phone video message I received the next day at work from the girl roommate. She was literally 2 feet away, taking video of only my dick and talking to me at the same time. It took a good 2 days for that whole ordeal to transition from embarrassing to funny.